Hello everybody, welcome to the Technology Webinar series of the Impact Project. My name is Marcelo Rayan, I'm the technical leader here at Impact, and I will be hosting this webinar today. First, I would like to introduce the scope and nature of what we're going to see in the following minutes. As you may already know, this is a series of webinars that we have set up here at Impact with the aim of explaining what the Fiware technology is and how you can take advantage of it. So our goal is to help you implement Fiware in your project. The Fiware technology is one of the main benefits of our program, and it's also a requirement if you wish to participate in Impact. So these webinars are aimed at introducing and explaining these Fiware technologies and helping you to better understand them and use them in your project. Just as a reminder, let's go through what we saw in the previous webinars of the series. If you remember, in the first webinar, we saw together an introduction to Fiware technology with the goal of getting in touch with the technology and how you can use it to help you build your project. It was a quick introduction. In the second webinar, we walked through the different Fiware components and modules with the goal of helping you better understand the whole ecosystem possibilities and resources. As we saw, resources are a very important part of the Fiware ecosystem. Every partner involved in both the FIPPP and the Fiware projects has put a lot of effort in the development of the technologies and the accompanying tutorials, websites, and other helpful resources that you can find online. So I really want to stress this fact and suggest you check out all the resources that you have at your disposal when designing your application's Fiware architecture. It's really a rich set of resources out there. Then, in the third Impact webinar, I gave you some interesting and first-hand insights about the use of enablers and their integration in your project's architecture. We saw how enablers differ from each other, not just in their area and functionality, but also in their coverage, their maturity, and their scope. Then, in the fourth Impact webinar, we extended our vision of Fiware enablers and the added value that their integration represents. We concentrated the webinar on the interaction of different enablers that fit together and allow your application to reach a high degree of features. We showed how you can use Orion ContextBroker along with a few other prominent enablers and interconnect them to get valuable features that can help you get your application to the next level. Finally, in the last webinar to date, we had the opportunity to get into detail and have a hands-on experience with the central enabler of the Fiware architecture, Orion. We explained what content management is and how you can make use of Orion ContextBroker enabler in your project. So now it's time to get into bigger detail and hands-on with another central enabler of the Fiware architecture, IoT-Agent, also called IDaaS. We'll explain what the enabler is and how you can make use of IoT-Agents along with Orion ContextBroker enabler that we saw in the previous webinar in your project. As you may well know, Internet of Things and smart cities in particular are one of the main areas in Fiware, and this enabler can help your project get to the next level in this area. By now, you shall have a wide view of the use of Fiware and its integration in your architecture. The webinar is partly based on documentation made by Carlos Rally from the Fiware organization, and I want to take the opportunity to thank him for his effort in conceiving not just this presentation and documentation, but many other documents that help Fiware get what it is. Thanks. Okay, so this is the structure of the information I wish to present you with today. First, we had this little introduction. I'm going to go through it a little bit further. Then we'll get hands-on with the IoT agents, the IDaaS generic enabler. We'll get into detail of how it works and what it does. Then I have some exercises to propose you so that you can follow up on what we see at home or in your office. And then we'll finish with a review of next steps so that you always know what's next for you to do in the context of the impact projects. Let's go then. I have summarized here so that you have it as a documentation, all the previous webinars and its links, so that if you want to take a look at them to remind them, or if you just have not had the opportunity to see one of them, well, you can access them from here. So, as I said before, the first webinar, we introduced Fiware technology and its architecture, so that you have a wide image of the technology. Second webinar, we walk through different Fiware components, modules, and all the general resources associated with them. In the third webinar, I try to help you understand the approach you need to have to your application architecture through having a deep look at the enablers insides. Then, in the fourth seminars, we saw how the different enablers fit together, complement and interact with each other. And we also looked at several real-life examples. Lately, in the fifth webinar of the series, we took an inside look at the Orion ContextBroker generic enabler and gained hands-on experience on how to use it in your projects. You have all the links here, just so that it can be helpful for you to access them. Okay, we're ready now. Let's go for it, and let's see the IoT agents, the IDaaS generic enabler that can help you build Internet of Things projects or related to smart cities and many other things. As I said before, we will be basing this introduction to IoT agents enabler in the documentation by Carlos Raleigh from Telefonica R&D and member of the Fiware organization. Okay, when you use the ContextBroker, if you remember our last webinar, you may be using it to consume data from different places, from different environments. You may be using it to consume and to analyze the data with big data analytics, or you may be using a complex event processing enabler, or at the same time you may be consuming this information, from applications done using for example, Web3D generic enabler, or the application logic at the Fiware cloud. And you may well be using all this from the Fiware lab, or from an application installed on your own infrastructure. In this context, IoT agents are just context information producer, but they are very special as they represent all the Internet of Things devices and sensors that can be spread all over the Internet, and so they are very powerful producers of information. The information produced goes into the ContextBroker GE and then is consumed by the context information consumers, like what we saw before. So, in this sense, there are two kinds of IoT agents out there connecting to the context broker. First, we have what we call the IoT consumers. These are sensors that are connected just to consume the information from other parts of the application. And then we have IoT providers. This is pretty much heterogeneous because they usually produce content and that is going to the context broker, but they also consume the information that is produced by other agents. Usually the first type, so what we've called the IoT consumers, don't just consume the information coming from IoT, but in general they consume many kinds of information coming from the different GEs that are attached to the system and that we have talked about before. So for these players, the context broker acts as a single point of contact. So it's a concentrator of the API and all the protocols for the IoT, OpenData, etc. Everything is connected to the context broker. All the data producers get the data into the context broker, and then the IoT agent just consumes it. Then, as you know, everything in the context broker is modeled as entities and properties, so metadata connected to these entities. And so IoT agents can make use of this and can be created as entities. So each sensor would be an entity inside the context broker. Here you can take advantage of the abstraction layer. So for example, you can have an entity that produces information coming from different IoT agents. So for example, you can have a bus that has some sensors on it, and the information about the bus, which would be the entity, can come from each of the sensors that are connected to it. Finally, as you know, the context broker and the IoT agents that are connected to it can be public, so the information would be available to anyone that wants to consume it, or it can be set up as a closed infrastructure. Then the category that we call IoT providers are the IoT agents that are really heterogeneous, and they publish their data into, using very different technologies. And from this, you can have different type of IoT providers. You can have from a single, anything going from a simple sensor that just wants to publish its information on the context broker to be consumed by an application, to very complex IoT architectures, networks of sensors that need to be connected to the context broker. So it's very heterogeneous on itself, but we can say that the IoT providers are the sensors that really put a lot of data into the context broker. Okay, so now about the IoT providers and what you can consume from them. If you go to the Fiware Lab installation of the context broker, you will see that there are many connected sensors, many IoT enablers connected there, and all this data is public. There are many cities connected: Lisbon, Zaragoza, Sabadell, Las Palmas, Santander, and all of them have many sensors around, and everything is connected, and you can make an application that takes advantage of this data. The kind of sensors and therefore the type of data that you can get from all these cities is very heterogeneous also. You have from anything from smartphone sensors to sensors that have information related to traffic incidents, bikes renting, street lights, public transportation, parkings, gardens, irrigation, fountains in Seville, Ornamental font is water healthiness, water consumption, noise, demography. You have, like for example, in Santander, you have almost 15,000 sensors connected to the context broker, to the public context broker in the Fiware lab. So I'm talking about the context broker a lot here for a reason. It's because if your application just wants to consume IoT data, I mean data coming from IoT devices, from sensors, you don't need to know anything about the IoT enabler. So you wouldn't need this presentation, this webinar. You would just go to the context broker and just consume this information. So basically, all you need to know is that you connect to the context broker, and then you can have the information about the cities. For example, a Smart Santander, you have all the types of sensors that are connected, and you need to know the conventions about the naming of the sensors there. So, for example, here are a few examples for Santander and Seville. If you don't know the ecosystem conventions, you can always just discover it. So once you get the names, you can query an entity, as you know, for the whole set or just for specific attributes, or you can subscribe to changes of the attributes of some entities. You can, of course, discover all entities, all entity types. I mean, everything that we have seen in the previous webinar regarding the context broker, you would do if you consume data coming from IoT sensors. So if on the other hand you want to be an IoT provider, so you want to publish the information coming from your sensors in a context broker, in the Fiware lab or whatever, you have three different options to do that. So the first option, which is here, which is called A, is to develop your own NGSI agent, and this is what we call server-to-server connection. So in that case, you wouldn't be using any enabler or any pre-built technology, but you would develop your own NGSI application, and you would just publish your information coming from IoT to the context broker. There are many situations in which you can be willing to do that directly. Then you have another option, which is the main goal of the enabler, because it's using the IoT generic enabler, so it's the IoT-Agents, and you would use this to publish your information into the context broker. This is where this IoT IDaaS generic enabler comes handy, because it allows your IoT devices to push and to publish this data into the context broker using a very familiar and easy interface. Basically, what the IoT generic enabler does is to get your information using specified interfaces and methods and transform it to NGSI protocol to connect it to the context broker and publish the information there. Then we also have advanced scenarios where the information coming from your sensors can be published to the context broker in different ways, but we're not going to go into detail regarding this option. So inside the architecture, the IDaaS generic enabler, the IoT-Agents enabler, is what was called the BE device manager. So it's placed here, and it connects to the IoT broker, to the context broker, etc. So that's a little bit the architecture. The IoT-Agents generic enabler comes from the IDaaS component, and it has been evolved and improved a lot by the Fiware organization to make it easier for you to use. So for example, it's modular, So the installation is easy. You have blueprints in the cloud, in the Fiware lab. You can code any plugin, so anything that you want to connect to the IoT agent in any language, as it's an API, so you get higher flexibility. You also can extend it through IoT agents, so new IoT agents can be connected to the system, and you get the scalability by design. So this is the basic of the advantages that you get with the IoT agents enabler. So in the enabler, you already have many IoT agents, different ones, and the one that you will be using in your application will depend on the specific protocol that you're using. And if you want to use a protocol for which there's not an IoT agent yet, you could develop it yourself. Some projects have already done that, and then publish it to the IoT enabler, and then that way you are able to use it. One of the simpler and most used protocols is the ultralight 2.0 protocol, which is very simple, and in there you have as a developer, you have your sensor, you have your gateway to the system, and you just develop your code in the gateway to publish the information coming from the sensor into the platform. For example, you have the IoT agent based on ultralight 2.0 protocol. So that would be an implementation, a specific implementation of the IDaaS enabler, and you can get the code in the URL here in GitHub, and you will have everything at your hand to connect your application to all this data. So there's currently this public ContextBroker information on the Fiware lab, and it collects information coming from different cities and different sensors in each city. So we're going to see an example of how you would be using this specific protocol in an IoT agent to connect to a ContextBroker and publish the information coming from your sensor. So first step would be to configure it, and for this you can use what is called FIGWAY. FIGWAY is a set of Python scripts that allow you to connect to the IoT agent using this protocol pretty quickly and pretty simply. So I recommend you to try it. The configuration step is pretty clear and pretty straight. You need to download this config.ini file to your computer, and then you need to just provide your username and token for it to connect. Then you have a section also in the file where you can specify your host type, and you can also specify or say your MAC address or email address. Once you've done the configuration, you can go directly to the registration of a sensor device so that you can connect it to the enabler. And so you would use this Python script to register the sensor and to connect to it, and you need to set up this data on the file, the device ID, the asset ID, and then the configuration with which the device will be sent, the device information will be sent to the ContextBroker. And this is an HTTP post request. And then once you have registered your sensor, you just need to send the measurements, the data coming from the sensor, to the ContextBroker using the IoT agent enabler. So for this, you can use the Python script that you just download from in the in this case, and you would use the send of observation method, and you just specify your sensor ID, then the sensor name, and then the value of the measurement that you wanna upgrade, and that's it. In these three simple steps, you would have your sensor connected to the context broker and publishing all the information. It's as simple as that, and then any application could come and connect to it, connect to the data you're producing, and use it in their specific logic. You then have a method that you can use if you want to check if the measurement was correctly sent to the context broker. Of course, any client application, any consumer of this data would get the information directly from the context broker, but you can use this command just to check whether the information from the sensor is being published correctly. Also, you have the way to read your sensor data at the context broker. So that would be the way that an IoT consumer would check the context broker for the information coming from your sensor. Regarding the type of sensors that you can connect, the enabler has already a list of pre-configured sensors that you can use. There are many of them, and if you don't find the one you're looking for, you can create your own one. So it's pretty easy to do that, and you can discover the models you have with this Python script. And if you don't find your model, you can create your own one, as I said, using this specific script. And then what you do is you describe the capabilities, the format, and everything that your sensor is gonna do. And once you've done that, you can publish your sensor and you can begin using it. So you have all the information here. And basically that's it. You have all you need to begin connecting your sensors through the IoT-Agents enabler, which is going to be much easier than if you want to connect directly through NGSI to the context broker. And these two together are going to be the powerful combination that Fiware provides you with. So basically, that's a summary of what you would do using the IoT-Agent Ultralight 2.0. And so first you create your model, then you create your asset, you send measurements, you send comments, and you're ready to go. Any IoT consumer can connect and get the information from your sensors. As easy as that. Okay, so now that we've seen what the IoT-Agents enabler is and what can be done with it, it's time for you to practice by yourself. And the best way to do so is to follow up on these exercises published in, you can find them in a SlideShare, and you have many things to do there, from basic things to more sophisticated ones, and it's the best way to try and play with the technology before you apply it to your own project. So that's it for the IoT-Agents enabler. So what's next now? Next steps are very important for you. So let's sum things up. Next steps towards the use of Fiware technology is first start by using the catalog to identify and select the enablers that best fit your project's needs and classify them. Then use Fiware School and all the other online resources that we've been talking about. Use the webinars to learn more about these GEs and about how to implement them in your project. Then set up an account at Fiware Lab. Ask for a community account. When you're in Impact, you get one of these automatically, and test all the GEs that you've identified and begin playing with them. Modify your architecture to make room for Fiware using these enablers, and you're ready to go to participate in Impact. Always remember that together, Fiware enablers make up an ecosystem where interaction is key to make projects work. So you really need to use a few of the enablers and put them together so that they work together and that they add value to the set. Of course, you won't be by yourself on this trip. Impact is always here to help you. Impact will guide you if your project is selected. We will guide you to the Fiware implementation, and we'll go with you, helping you to integrate Fiware in your architecture, balancing technology and business, balancing Fiware and business, and always redirecting to your implementation questions to the best party available. So, where do you go from here? Next steps. Check all the inline information. You've got many information online, many resources. Go for them. Select the GEs. Use Fiware School. Set up an account at Fiware Lab. And begin working on Impact. Okay, so that was it for today's webinar, in which we saw the IoT-Agents enabler. I really hope it was helpful for you. Wish you the best of projects within Impact and Fiware technology. Thank you very much for your attention. Goodbye.